listening to the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, and life-giving relationships. Why focus on relationships? Because the quality of our intimate partnerships and close connections influences our health, happiness, and longevity more than anything else in our lives. Relationships matter a lot, so together, let's jump into the mud, aka our messy relationships, pull some weeds, plant some seeds, and create an enriching environment where strong relationships can take root. I am your grateful host, Dara Posner. I am a relational disaster working toward relational mastery. I am also a positive psychology coach, a relational mindset coach, a blogger, and now a podcaster. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, life-giving relationships. If you are a fan of this podcast, please subscribe, follow, like, review, and share. Your engagement in this way is crucial to the success of the podcast, and I appreciate you taking just a few seconds to support my mission, which is to help people like you flourish in life and love. Today on the Embrace the Mud podcast, we are continuing in our series, Real Relationship Wisdom, where I share with you golden nuggets of wisdom from Dr. Terry Real. Today's topic is relational integrity. What is relational integrity? How do you practice it? And how does it help your relationships? That's what we're going to be getting into, so let's dive in. In most healthy, high-functioning relationships, what you will often see is a couple who has agreements about how they'll behave in their relationship, how they'll take care of their relationship. They'll have agreements around principles that they follow, things that they just don't ever do that might harm the relationship, or things that they always do to help their connection and help them feel close and bonded to each other. And every once in a while, somebody defaults on these agreements, right? Like, for example, you might have an agreement with your spouse, whether explicit or unspoken, that you just don't name call each other, let's say. That's a pretty serious one, right? Name calling really hurts. It does a lot of damage. It definitely breeds disconnection. But somebody gets really, really triggered and angry and lashes out and ends up name calling. Maybe, you call your partner a jerk, or, there's a list of things that we can say, right? So you can use your imagination, and you've broken one of these agreements, right? Then the other partner is left with a couple of choices, right? They can lash back out and name call in return. They can just walk away from the situation, right? And, maybe punish their partner for that behavior, or they can opt for yet a different pathway, which might be to say something like, ouch, that really hurt, honey. I thought that we agreed that we would never name call one another. You really hurt my feelings. I know you're hurting. I know you're upset. I can see that you're really angry right now. I want to hear you, and I want to be here for you. I really need you to speak to me in a different way, right? And that third option is an example of what we call relational integrity. So what is relational integrity? Hopefully that example gives you some idea of what the definition might be, but essentially what relational integrity comes down to is having an agreement with yourself that you will stay in integrity with the beliefs you have about how a healthy partner functions, how a good partner functions in relationship, and also the agreements that you have with your partner about what you will do and what you will not do in the relationship, regardless of what your partner is doing. So they're having a weak moment, right? Like we just described, and they are stepping out of integrity with what they believe is right, what they believe is healthy and good. They're out of integrity with the agreements that you have, the principles that the two of you share and follow, maybe even your values. But you if you're practicing relational integrity, decide that even when that happens, even when my partner makes a mistake, falls out of alignment with integrity, I don't. I still maintain relational integrity even in that situation. And that can be hard to do for sure, right? When we want to bite back, when we want to punish, somebody breaks an agreement. That actually happened recently in my relationship. And I didn't make the right choice. There was a repeat, we can say, offense that I, was hurt by. So I was like, you know what? Fine. If they're not going to, I'm not going to, right? I fell out of relational integrity. I decided not to practice relational integrity. And, the problem with that, and I think Dr. Real puts this so brilliantly when he says that, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says, if your partner is being like a grade A jerk, right? Like they're really just operating from that, what he calls the adaptive child. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. But that wounded inner child place. And, they're just throwing a temper tantrum and saying mean things and being really, really difficult. But you stay loving and compassionate and connected to your wise adult. What he says is that is a bad day for them, a mixed day for your relationship, and a great day for you, right? So any day, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how our partner is behaving, if we have a commitment to ourselves and to the relationship to remain in integrity to what we believe is best, what we believe is healthy and good, what we've discussed we're going to do under different circumstances, whether that's, in conflict or not in conflict, choosing to remain in that solid place, we could say, right, of health and safety, remaining a safe person yourself, even when your partner is acting in unsafe ways toward you, being a loving person still. And, I have learned one of the biggest and most important lessons I've learned about what makes relationships really thrive, not just work, but like flourish and be amazing and wonderful, isn't two people who are just always both in relational integrity and doing everything that they're supposed to be doing perfectly. No, it's first of all, knowing that each of you at different times will fall out of alignment and have to come back in at some point. But what makes really amazing, beautiful, strong relationships is when two people can love their partner when they deserve it the least. And that's really what relational integrity is all about, is when your partner is just acting in really unlovable ways, you choose to love them still. And when you're doing that for each other, as the months and years go by, that builds so much trust and safety in the relationship because nobody's perfect, right? Each of us are going to get triggered. We're going to act out of those more immature places inside of ourselves. The more we learn about relationships and, what happens in triggered states, we also learn that we don't have to take these times personally. So it's a lot easier to stay in integrity when we know that what's happening with the other person isn't actually really about us and not a reflection of us or their love for us or even who they are, right? And so that's, basically what relational integrity looks like. I think it's such an important thing to be aware of and to deliberately and consciously commit to. So that is what I have to share with you today from Dr. Terry Real in our series here, Real Relationship Wisdom. I'll be back with yet another golden nugget very soon. But in the meantime, please remember, you are wired for love and connection. You are capable of love and connection. You are worthy of love and connection.